To all of you, Miss Rene, she is from South Africa, and she's been with Trino since the very beginning times when Trinos opened doors here in Guatemala. And she's teaching class 6 now. For this topic, I leave you with Miss Rene, and have fun. Enjoy.
Thank you, Gabby. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Dealing with the Social Dilemma. Now, the movie, The Social Dilemma, it came out and it caused a lot of buzz. And I didn't watch it until very recently. And when I watched it, one of my first thoughts I had was, I wonder how many people watched this movie and then actually changed or made changes to what they are doing. I think some of us felt very scared or worried when this movie came out. We felt maybe angry at what is going on. Some people, I think, maybe went off Facebook for a week or deleted their accounts for a little bit. I know one of my friends actually followed one of the advices given in the movie. And I think then most of us didn't really change anything, except that now we are also carrying this guilt of the fact that now, while we watch this movie, we kind of know more about what's going on. And we know that sometimes what we are doing is bad for us. So, I mean, in this time of the pandemic, where most of our lives we are spending online, either working remotely, staying in contact with families remotely, wondering, well, what are we doing with our children or for our children, or how can we navigate this? We also, a lot of you, your children are at home 24/7. So you can't tell your child, okay, get off the phone, we're eating, when this morning they saw you at the breakfast table on your phone as well. So, and here we are again, communicating via social media. So firstly, I want to say thank you so much for making the time to be here tonight. Please type any questions or comments you have in the comment section so that we can respond and answer or share if you have something that you would like to share. Now, for me, the crux of The Social Dilemma, the movie that came out, or people that are speaking out now and exposing things, is that we really need to be more conscious. Not only with social media, but with things that we are doing or how we are interacting with our gadgets, our devices, what we are doing with this technology that is available to us. And 2020 has shown us and is showing us that there is just so much that we are not aware of, or that we are taking for granted, or we're tired. I mean, it's just one thing after the other. So, and it's December, and here we still are in this situation. So for tonight, there are only two main themes that I want to speak about. The first is I would like to explore or share with you some ways to maybe change our consciousness or to bring greater consciousness into what we are doing. Consciousness into how we are using our gadgets, how we are using our devices, and how we are using this technology that is available to us. And then I'm going to share what I think is the number one way we can help our children navigate this online world, navigate this world that we are living in. And I hope that that is what gives you hope, or what empowers you, that hope is not lost. It's not as if we are now just can throw our hands in the air and say, well, that's it. No, there are things that we can do. So the first thing that we need to admit, parents, is that children do not have the consciousness to make good, strong, and healthy decisions. So just a few examples. I mean, you can imagine your child will eat a whole bag of candy, and you can warn them and say, don't eat the candy. They will eat it. Later on, they will cry because they have a stomach ache. Probably they will vomit. Probably they'll vomit on you. But that's what they're going to do because they want to eat the candy. They're going to eat the whole candy, not knowing when to stop. Another example, until we teach our children how to cross the street, they might just think that they can cross the street looking straight ahead of them. Until we teach them, well, you need to look left and right to look for cars. Children will also touch a hot stove. They'll put their hand on a hot plate, even after we've said, don't touch it, you are going to burn. Think of us adults. A lot of us make terrible decisions at times when we know better. I mean, even these examples I said before, we could apply them probably to a lot of adults we know, or even to ourselves, and we know better. And this is true in many ways, not only when it comes to our relationships with our phones or our Facebook account or our Instagram account. This is true in many different areas of life. So I'm sorry, parents. Again, I'm going to start and give you the bad news straight away. We have to be the consciousness for our children, and helping our children deal with the social dilemma, with the dangers that are there on the internet, or the downsides of this technology that is available to us. That has to start with us. So for the rest of the talk, I would like you to be thinking of what are things that can help you change your consciousness, or what are ways that you can be more conscious of how you are doing things, because that is how your children are going to learn. That is how your children are going to be able to be more conscious and make better decisions. Because the movie, The Social Dilemma, somehow it also gave me a lot of hope. We are realizing more and more and more that it's people who are making the terrible decisions. It's us people who are exploiting each other. It's us people who are taking advantage of one another. So for me, it's as if we can now, let's direct our attention to helping our children be better people, so that when they come to points in their life when they have to make decisions, they can make better decisions. So consciousness, us being aware of what we are doing, is going to help raise the consciousness of our children. So I would like us to start with what is our perception of technology and what we have to do now. Firstly, to just clear up, technology is technology. It's been around since us humans first decided that we want to understand and make sense of this world. It has been around since we wanted to make our lives more comfortable and our lives easier. So technology is any advancement which moves us forward. So whether it was the invention of the wheel or the plow or the Roman aqueduct or the internet, it's all of these things that we create or we design or we develop to make our lives easier and better. And then we have no control over the next step. So once the advancement or the technology has been created, we then have no control. So I might have invented the wheel in my village, and someone a couple of villages away took that wheel and took it into something else, or changed it into something else, and then someone took that and changed it into something else. And that's just how us humans have developed and grown throughout the centuries. So we no longer use the Roman aqueduct to move water, because we now have more complex systems in place, that are more efficient, that are quicker. And so now we move our water in other ways. So for me, it makes sense to not turn the technology into the enemy, but rather to focus our energy on teaching our children to use the technology in a way that is healthy, helpful, and moving them forward. For us to focus our energy on helping our children be better people, so that when they make decisions or when they have to navigate this world when they are older, I know some of you have children who are still in kindergarten or early childhood, but let's focus on helping them become healthier, more balanced people, so that they can then use this incredible technology in ways that are more healthy, not only for them, but also for the people they will interact with and for the world. So it's almost as if we need to find a way to redeem this, growing monster, or this thing that is the internet, that is somewhat scary, or very scary for some of us. How can we redeem this? How can we take control back of this? How can we navigate or manage our addictions to our devices, to our phones? And the good news is that that can start in our own homes. So I would like to share some things that I think would be valuable for us to become more conscious about. And before you all start shouting at me and saying, oh, but Miss P, please, it's the end of the year. My job is getting more stressful. Schools are closing. The children are at home. What am I going to do with them until next year, January, when school starts again? I know. So please, I'm not going to say these are things that you must do. I cannot force you to be more conscious. No one can force that on any of us. So I'm going to share some suggestions. Think about them, see what works for you or what resonates with you or something that you connect with. See if it's something that makes sense for you and your family, and then change it for what works for your family. I don't want to give anybody extra work in December 2020. Believe me, that is not something that I want to do. So just listen, be open, see what lands, see what makes sense, and see if there are things that appeal to you and are things that you can use in your homes, but also things that you can use for yourself. Because remember, it's got to start with us, because the children are watching us. So the first thing, I mean, one of my friends told me that, for example, my class was so lucky that when we moved onto this virtual distance learning teaching program. And I said to him, no, we're not lucky. And he said, well, in a way you are. And it took me a few moments to understand what he meant. And he said, you know, the children of today, a lot of them are being introduced to tablets, gadgets, the internet, all of these things, these various platforms, because of a need. We no longer could go to our physical premises. So we had to create a new space where learning had to happen. So this was their introduction. It wasn't as if we said, okay, here's a tablet, do what you want, have fun, here's the Wi-Fi password, ja. It wasn't like that. We created the space with the children. So a lot of them started learning about how to operate a device, how to use an iPad, how to use a laptop, how to use Word documents, because they needed to. So that is something that is incredibly powerful already, in that our children can see the devices as a tool for learning. They are also seeing us working from home, so they are seeing how this is also a tool for work. So it's not just, we use the internet to Google things or to be on Facebook for hours. No, they are seeing us using the internet and these incredible resources for a purpose. We need to create a space where they can, or not a space, but we also need to create this awareness that what we are doing is actually remarkable. If COVID had arrived, I mean, even, I don't know, 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been as easy for us to carry on as it is now. So we have this possibility to create in them this awareness that our devices or the internet or whatever serves us, which is very different to us being slaves to the device. So it's all about balance. There is a time when the device needs to be put away, just like any other tool. You know, at some point, the carpenter has to put down his hammer and nail and rest or do something else. And it's the exact same with these tools that we have available to us. So if we look at these gadgets and devices as tools, then we are also called to consider, okay, so when can I put this tool away? Yeah, because we don't use our tools all the time. So balance is key. When are moments to put it away? And how can we create this awareness or this appreciation of our gadgets as something which serves us, not just as something that I reach for whenever I don't know what else to do, or something that I reach for when I'm sitting at the table, or I reach for, I put the TV on when I'm eating. So how can we change our perception of our devices, our iPad, our tablets, our computers, our phones, and appreciate more or see it as something that can be used as a tool? It's also been incredible for connection. I remember when I was 20, which was many years ago, and I was living in Ireland, I used to go to the library. I used to book 2 2 days, 2 hours every week. And that's when I went to reply to my emails. So there was twice a week, I had 2 hours booked at the local library. And that's when I went to send emails. The rest of the week, if there was emails, I mean, it was just not possible. There was no Wi-Fi in the house or anything like that. I remember it being freezing cold and something had happened and I wanted to tell a friend of mine. It was freezing cold. I had to walk to the shop to go and buy a world call card so that I could phone South Africa to share this good news. I also remember having to wait for the weekly phone call. So kind of saving up all the news so that once a week when I phoned my parents, I remembered what to tell them. Whereas now I can sit on my couch, I can call my parents in South Africa, I can buy something from any country in the world, I can order my food, I can, I don't do this, but I could teach my class from my couch. It is remarkable how connected we are. And we shouldn't forget that because that's not a bad thing. But then there are also times when I'm just on my phone endlessly scrolling through Facebook. So then that's not me using my phone really to connect. It's one thing if I'm kind of looking at photos or someone had an event in a friend of mine in Australia and I'm looking at that, or am I just kind of going on my news feed and just scrolling and looking kind of for something that will catch my attention. So again, to be conscious about when are we using our devices and our gadgets for connection and when are we just using it, again, just reaching for it because my phone is there or because I need to check if something's happened on Twitter or I just want to see what's happening on Instagram. Then this other issue of, with having accounts now, so Instagram, having followers, having YouTube channels, Facebook, how many friends do you have? All of these things, there really is a question of self-worth and how much is our self-worth linked to likes or followers or things like that. Now, those people who say that, how many followers you have on I don't even know the words, how many followers you have on Instagram or how many friends you have on Facebook, the people who say it's not about self-worth, what about if it is about that? Or if it's not, do our children know how to understand the difference? So this is where our children's ability to make good decisions come from. Maybe for me, if I do a perfect yoga pose and I post that on Instagram because I'm proud of it, maybe it's not about self-worth, but I mean, my 12-year-old daughter or my 15-year-old son, are they able to differentiate their worth from their social media account? I mean, this is something that we need to consider. Never in history have we been able to do this. I mean, and never have we thought of doing this. Think about your grandparents. Our grandparents, when we were growing up, they would make a sandwich and then they would just eat that sandwich and that was it. They didn't need to kind of, before they ate the sandwich, take a photo of it, post it, and then, share that sandwich with the rest of the world. So with this, now maybe you're going to say, oh, but Renee, it was the best sandwich I ever made of my life. Fine. Maybe it was the best sandwich you ever made in your life. But think about, does your sandwich taste better after you've posted a picture of it? What are you doing in that moment? Why do you need to share this photo of the sandwich? Now, I made a roast chicken this past weekend, and I was so proud of this bird because it was beautiful. And I took a photo of it and I sent it to a couple of people because I was so proud of it. And afterwards, I was wondering, did I just want my mom to pat me on the head and say, oh, well done, you made a good roast chicken? Did I want my sister to look at that and say, oh my gosh, the next time we're together, I want you to cook that for us so that we can eat it? But it was just interesting, what actually is it around that? So maybe also just be conscious about, does our chicken only taste good when somebody else likes the photo of it? Do we need someone to like it? Do we just want to share it? And in those moments, that consciousness, that is something that will translate to our children, in a way that they can see us being more aware. We don't just share every single thing, but no, this is actually a very special thing that I do want to share. Or do they see us just sharing everything and then they grow up thinking, well, okay, so that means that that's what we do. We just share everything that we do. My brother, when he was younger, my sister and I, so my brother is 18 years younger than me, and my sister and I told our parents, he's not having a Facebook account until he is 18 years old. And we were very clear about that. And so he didn't have a Facebook account until he was 18. And do you know what happened to him going through high school without a Facebook account? Nothing. Nothing happened. He survived, and he is okay without a Facebook account. So it is very important for us to think about, what do we want our children to know? What do we want our children to think? What do we want them to understand or take away from all of these things? How are our different accounts, or the things that we do, how are they affecting our relationships with ourselves? Do we need the validation to come from somebody else? Or why can't we do that for ourselves? Why couldn't I pat my own self on the head and say, well done, you made a good chicken? I mean, that's something that we also need to think about, because that's something that wasn't around many years ago. And I mean, some people might be thinking, you're being dramatic. Maybe I am, but maybe I'm not. Maybe there is some truth in all of these things, that our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our self-esteem, our relationship with our self-worth, maybe that is being affected by all of these different things that are available to us now. Being conscious about, are we using Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of these things? Are we using them as a time filler, or are we using them consciously? So am I going on Instagram to do something, or am I just bored? I have nothing else going on, so I'm just going to scroll through that. So like in those moments, and I don't want to ask myself that either. I mean, I don't want to reach for my phone and think, what are you doing now? But I mean, maybe this is the consciousness we need to bring into ourselves, because we have children watching us, because our children are learning from us, because they are seeing what we do, and that will just become what they do later on. Then there's also this thing of escapism. And I know we all want to somehow escape from, or at moments of the day, escape from the realities of what's going on. And I don't think escapism is a bad thing. Movies are great. Listening to music is great. Going on Facebook or chatting to a friend, I mean, those are good things, and we all need change. But are we choosing something that makes us feel good? Are we choosing something that adds value to our lives, or that makes us feel better? Or are we just doing something, and then later on we kind of emerge 3 hours later like, oh my gosh, I just lost 3 hours on Facebook. For what? So and this depends on many things. I mean, it depends on our mood. It depends on the day we had. I'm not saying that we need to be trying to achieve this level of consciousness and perfection all the time. We're human. We have bad days, and there are some days that we just want to switch off. So I think it is just about bringing awareness, so that sometimes maybe we will not reach for the phone and we will do something else. And I mean, just the first time we do that might make it easier to do it the next time. So again, please, I'm not saying we now all have to become these perfect people who do all these Pinterest activities, and now we are, I mean, I don't have energy for that most of the time. So, but just to open our minds and to think, what is our relationship with these things, and how are we, what example are we setting, not only for our children, but for ourselves? How much are we valuing ourselves and our time? So now, if there's only one thing that you remember from tonight, if there's only one thing that stays with you, please let it be this: that the thing that we can do to help our children deal with this and navigate it is growing good, strong, healthy, open relationships with our children. So that our children loving relationships with our children, so that we can create a space where our children know they can communicate with us. Because whatever is going to happen in this online virtual space when they are a teenager or in their 20s or whatever, parents, you want to create a space where the children know that whatever happens, they can come back to you. That whatever happens, you are the first person they call when something goes wrong, that you are the person they ask when their friends give them advice that is confusing, that you are the one they come to when they read something online or see something online that they didn't like, or that they don't know what to do with, or that they are not sure about, that, excuse me, that you are always the one that they come back to. Because I think this is where the problem comes, when we almost lose our children to whatever. Yeah. So we need to become very, very conscious of who is the main voice our children are hearing. And it has to be our voice. Your parents, it has to be your voice that is in their head at those moments when they need to make a decision, or when they are not sure, especially when they are younger. This is what, for me, what this is all about. This social dilemma. What will your teenager do one day when they are online? How easily will they be influenced by others? However much they link their self-worth to their followers or to the likes of the photo, they need to be able to come back to you who is their safe space, you who is their voice, you who is their consciousness. That whatever goes wrong, you, mom or dad, or any other trusted adult, it could be a grandpa, grandma, whoever, but they need to know that they need to come, or not that that they can come to us, that we are there, we will listen to them, we will communicate with them, and that we can be a safe space for them. So I can't tell you how to grow or how to strengthen your relationship with children, but I think what works is creating space to talk, creating space to listen, creating a space where you also share, of course, always age appropriate. What you tell your 4-year-old is going to be very different to what you tell your 9-year-old, your 14-year-old, your 16-year-old. So always age appropriate, but sharing and being open with them about our mistakes, about our doubts, about moments when we do things wrong. Sharing with them when we realize, you know what, I actually have been on my phone too much today. I'm going to put it away. And, again, very important, age appropriate, but letting there be this flow between you and your child. Also listening without judgment. And I think this comes more into play as they get older. They're going to tell you things and ask you things that shock you. So one of my first things, whenever one of the children in my class comes to me, or they say a word, or they say something that they saw, I always have to kind of not react, not judge, not jump to conclusions. And that's just something that as adults we need to try and do for our children. So some ideas, making meals a phone-free space. So if they grow up knowing that before we eat, everyone's phone, everyone's tablet, everyone's whatever, including moms and dads, goes away, that is something that will just become a part of their consciousness, a part of how they live their lives. And maybe that will then be something that they do with their own families one day. Connection is key. So we need to find these moments to connect with our children, to connect with our family, to connect with our spouses. All of us, we need to connect, and we need to be able to connect without a device in our hand. Something else, if you keep collecting boards on Pinterest, let your child see you make something. So you have all these boards on Pinterest, even if it's one thing, just go to the shop, buy the materials, or take whatever's in your house and let them see you turn your vision into reality. So now they see, well, my mom is not just collecting lots of boards on Pinterest. Here she has made this thing. She has made this meal, or this is the Christmas decoration she had made. Even if it is a total flop. I often try these Pinterest teacher ideas, and my version is completely different. And that's a good adjective to use. But I think it's important. Let them see you try and fail. But what's important is that they see you taking this thing from the screen and turning it into reality. And that's another way that they can see how the internet, how Pinterest, how these things can serve us and can help us. Limiting their social presence while they are still young. You know, you can say no to your children. So don't let them open the Facebook account just because they want one. Don't let them have an Instagram account just because it's cool and everyone else in the class has it. Say no. You know, if they tell you that, oh, but it's peer pressure, everyone else has, so what? Your child is your child, and you are the one who puts down the boundaries and who places those limits so that your child knows what is their safe space in which they can operate. So say no to them. You know, I heard a very interesting story that one father had actually he had got it right, that he told his girl, you know, if a boy ever wants to kiss you, this was obviously a younger girl, she was like around 12, 13. If a boy wants to kiss you, tell him that he has to contact me, and if I say it's okay, then you can kiss him. And his daughter actually said this to a guy. So he wanted to kiss her, and the daughter said, well, we need to call my dad, and if my dad says it's okay, then we can kiss. Now, maybe that is extreme, but what I love about that story is that she could then make her dad the bad guy, and her father was totally fine with that. We are not our children's friends. Friendship can come later, once they are adults. But for now, while we are their consciousness, while we are the ones who have to help them learn how to make good decisions, be the bad guy. Make sure that yours is the advice that they follow. Be the kind of parent that they do not want to disappoint. So when I was growing up, you know, my mom was the one who would shout and we would get into trouble and we would have to deal with my mom. And my dad would kind of come home from work or whatever, and he would drop the D word. I'm so disappointed in you, Renee. And when he added it with a little shake of the head, I mean, my gosh, I was just beside myself, not knowing what I was going to do. I had disappointed my father. I had upset my mother. Be those parents, because if you are those parents, you will help them make better decisions and you will help them be better parents themselves. So be that voice in their head. Be the bad guy. Take the fall for your children. If they don't want to do something, or if everyone has an Instagram account, be the one who says no, so that the child can say, well, my dad said no. Be uncool. Be the uncool mom. So what? Yeah. You want to be uncool. You want to be the voice of authority, because that is what is going to help your children be able to make better decisions in those difficult moments. I'm almost finished. Hang in there. So think about this also. You know, think about how can you place these limits? How can you be the bad guy? How can you be the enemy? And think about the benefits that that will have for your child, especially in this world where we are seeing how the internet, or how the technology and things that we are creating, how it is taking on a life of its own. It is really up to us to make sure that our children feel safe, that they feel confident, because they know they are acting from a safe space which we have created for them. And that this safe space comes from us being willing to be the bad guy, from us being willing to put down these boundaries, from us being willing to say no, knowing that in the long run, that is what is going to help our children. So in closing, I don't want you to go away from tonight feeling like, oh, here we go, another thing, and I have to now add this to my plate. No. Remember, if there's only one thing you remember, what is going to help your child deal and navigate with this world that at times can be scary, where there is this incredible, overwhelming amount of information available, where there are so many different people who are showing how things should be. You know, there are so many people who want to tell your child to do this, to buy that, to be that, to agree to this, to let someone do that, or to be a part of that. Make sure that you are the one who is the voice in their head, or that when they make a mistake, they know they can come back to you. So Connect with your children, have fun with them. Then, secondly, try and be more conscious, or find moments where you can be more conscious of what is your relationship with your device. What are you doing with your phone? When are you reaching for your phone? What are we showing our children, or what example are we setting? Please just be gentle with yourselves. Also, be gentle with your families. It's been a very, very long it's been a very, very long year, and December always has a way of becoming crazier. You know, schools are closing now, work is getting more hectic. The children are starting to get more tired. We are starting to get more tired. We still don't see the end of this situation. So just be gentle with yourselves. Find ways to connect, but also, of course, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel too guilty if you feel, oh my goodness, I wasn't able to do this thing perfectly, because that is also important for our children, for them to see that we are not perfect. What is important is for them to then see, what do we do when we make a mistake? So be gentle with yourselves, be gentle with your children. Don't lose hope, hang in there, and remember that we at Trinus, we are here. So if you want to reach out, whether it's to one of us educators or to someone in admin, please reach out and let us know how we can help and support you and your family.